I've been off of work for 6 months for the birth of my daughter. It's been incredible, but that means I haven't been driving my Model 3, and the majority of my miles that I've driven on my Model 3 for the past 4.5 years were my commute to the office, and I am going to be starting that commute back up. And about 2.5 years ago, I did a video covering my full commute using full self-driving before we had beta. And I thought this would be a perfect time to do a progress report update on FSD Beta. It's been out for 2 years now, and supposedly FSD Beta is supposed to be coming out to the public wide release later this year. I bought this Model 3 with hopes of keeping it for 10 years, and I bought full self-driving for it because I have hopes that I will have complete full autonomy and it drives itself. I want to take this 45-minute commute, and let's see if full self-driving beta can handle it. In my previous video from 2.5 years ago, when I did my full commute video, like I said, it was before FSD beta, so it was really only doing, so here it is, it's getting in the completely wrong lane. It's trying to turn right, and it put that turn signal on, and now it got back into the normal straight ahead lane. So right off the bat, it did something wonky. It eventually stayed in the correct lane, but it shouldn't have turned on its turn signal and tried to turn right there. And so now it's changing lanes, that's not right either, because we need to be in this right lane in order to merge on this highway. So I might have to take over within less than a minute. So it needs to be in this right lane. And now, yep, so it just totally screwed up there. So let's put it back on. It did not initiate its turn signal there, which is fine. It's not a big deal, but that was a merging lane, so technically it should have turned on its turn signal to merge right onto the highway there. But yeah, so right off the bat, two little mistakes that happened. But anyway, back to what I was saying. When I was doing my full commute 2.5 years ago, that was just showcasing mostly navigate on Autopilot, which is interstate and highway. It can merge from interstate to interstate and take exits, but once it came to a stop sign or a stoplight or left turns, for example, it couldn't do it. So with full self-driving beta, we're gonna get a glimpse of how it can handle this. So right now it's going too slow. It needs to be in that very left lane. So here we go. There we go. All right. So it needed to do 2 lane changes, or two merges there, and it did it fine. So it was just like going a little bit slow because the speed limit says 55, but right there, that's an interesting one because you have to go faster, especially early in the morning during rush hour. You're going to have to merge very quickly because people are going to be flying down that, and you have just a short amount of time to merge 2 lanes over and get in that far left lane. So if you see me throughout this video, if you're a beginner to this, as long as this little blue icon is enabled right here, that means FSD is in control, or Autopilot is in control of the car. That means the car is in control and driving itself. So you see right there, it just gave me a forward collision warning, which that was a false negative. There was nothing in my way. So again, that's a little weird thing that happens with FSD beta sometimes. So now you can see we're on navigating on Autopilot with that solid blue line. We're not going to, so now a semi is going to try to, it needs to change lanes, and this car is, okay, so my car is braking. There's a car coming up behind me flying, so that's just a hard thing to let FSD beta do, because luckily it did it correctly. It stopped and let the semi get over, but then again, you had this person coming up flying behind us, and they got over. So hey, it did fine. Sometimes in those situations, I usually will take over, but for this video, for the sake of this video, I wanted to showcase Autopilot trying to not intervene at all as much as I can, so just to see how it behaves on my commute. So Speaking of driving, today's sponsor Blinkist is one of my favorite apps to use on my commute. It saves me time and money by helping me understand the most important concepts from over 5,500 nonfiction books and podcasts in just 15 minutes. Blinkist gives me the best parts in bite-sized content that's easily digestible while driving. And one of my favorite titles that I've listened to recently is called Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, and it contains some valuable lessons for understanding how money works in the real world and how our personal history and emotions shape our financial decisions. And one of the best new Blinkist features is called Connect, where you can share your account with another person of your choice. It's almost like getting 2 premium accounts for the price of 1. The Connect feature lets you and someone else easily share blinks and shortcasts with each other, and this is perfect for me and my wife because we are new parents, and I love sharing parenting content with her for us to discuss together in hopes of us becoming the best possible parents for our new daughter. Now you can use my special link in the description below to get a 7-day free trial and 25% off a Blinkist annual premium plan, so click the link below to get started today. And so we're on the interstate now. Now the speed limit is 55 on this road. However, I will say that almost everybody goes at least 10 miles over because this is I-65, but it's near the downtown area, which is why it's a slower speed. So I usually just get in the left lane and I'll bump up my speed limit max to 70. This is what I usually do during my commute. So I'll usually set it pretty high with the speed limit and just stick in the left lane because most of the time I'll end up coming up behind somebody. So we're just cruising now. This is like bread and butter, just simple autopilot on interstates, which is what we've had for years. Since I've got my Model 3 back in 2018, I've had this, and it's always worked great. Never really had an issue with it. But like I said, when we're going to come up on turning left at the in about 15 minutes, we'll be taking an exit and taking a protected left turn, and I'll speed up parts where we're just cruising on the highway here without any need for city driving, aka FSD Beta. You can see on the screen there it said please pay attention to the road. That's because it detected my eyes not looking at the road because I was looking down at the screen, making sure that my FSD Beta settings were correctly engaged, because it's been so long since I've driven this car. It's the first time I've driven it in a long time, as far as like driving it more than a mile or two. So just want to make sure everything was good there. And it's using the cabin camera here, right up here, to detect my eyes, track my eyes, and make sure that I'm watching the road. That's something with FSD Beta. If you are enrolled in FSD Beta, you that automatically gives the cabin camera access to track your eyes to make sure that you are paying attention to maximize safety. And again, if you're a beginner to watching these types of Tesla FSD videos or autopilot videos, you'll notice my hand is on the wheel. That's just the main thing that Tesla implements for making sure the driver is in control. So it uses sensors on the wheel to make sure it detects the hand on the wheel. So I'm basically just holding my hand here to give it some counterweight to let Tesla or the car know that I'm still in the driver's seat paying attention, but I'm not changing the wheel or moving the wheel in any way. It's just laying there just to appease the driver monitoring system. It's changing lanes pretty early on. I wouldn't have changed lanes this early, but again, I'm just going to let it do its thing. Better safe than sorry as far as like trying to get over, because you never know if you hit some rush hour traffic up ahead. But yeah, here it goes. It's going in the right-hand lane. We also have to change, I think, 1 or 2 more lanes up ahead in the next mile. So it usually handles this just fine. Never had an issue with this. I don't live in such a big metro city to where it's like bumper to bumper traffic, but there is some decent traffic. But it's always been able to change lanes and make its exit without missing it. All right, we are in the far right lane. This is the correct lane it needs to be in, and this is still using Navigate on Autopilot, which is not the full self-driving beta city street driving. We are still about 10 minutes away from that, but this is basically taking an exit onto another highway, which in the previous video 2.5 years ago it was able to do this stretch. It was able to do it just fine, and still does it just fine. So I'm gonna bump up the speed a little bit here, and we'll just go in the left lane and bump up the max speed and just trail some cars, because there is always going to be somebody who gets in the left lane that's not going faster than what I set my speed limit to. So an FSD Beta does limit you to 85 miles an hour, which is more than enough to cover, I think, 100% of US highways and interstates. And my commute is fairly easy when it comes to, a car driving itself. It's the majority of it. It's basically 3 highways. That's the majority of my commute. And you saw at the very beginning, it's just like a minute or so of like city driving, a couple of stoplights, a couple like turns. It shouldn't be too difficult for this, full self-driving beta software to complete my commute. It's just the beginning and end, like the edge cases, are going to be the biggest hurdles. Eventually, it's going to have to drive out of my driveway and pull into a parking spot so at the very beginning it's going to pull out my driveway onto the road, and then at the very end it's going to have to handle some city streets, city driving, and pull into a parking spot, which it hasn't been able to. It doesn't have that functionality just yet of going from complete park, pulling out of a driveway and all that stuff. So we'll hopefully we'll see that come very soon. All right, we're a mile away from the exit, and we have a car up ahead. So let's see if it changes lanes before or after it passes the car. Looks like it's going to pass this car. Maybe. Nope. Okay. So I thought it was going to, which I was going to be pretty impressed by it, but it slowed down pretty significantly and got behind this car because it needs to take this exit, which is fine. Like I said, better safe than sorry. You don't want it to miss an exit, so I'd rather it do that than try to pass and potentially miss the exit, because it's only 0.2 miles away. So now this is where 2.5 years ago when I did the video, it's basically stopped working because I didn't have FSD Beta. It would end right here and I would have to take over. Well, now with FSD Beta, you can see now it has taken over. FSD Beta has taken over. You see the red lines in the yellow. So now we're going to see if FSD Beta can complete this pretty easy left turn. It's a protected left turn, so there is a stoplight, and it is turning left though. So there is oncoming traffic in opposite directions, and we got to wait for this light to turn green. And handling stuff like this has been pretty easy for FSD Beta with my time with it over the past year. That was a little strange. You have these at the very beginning when I had to take over it. Sometimes it just doesn't get in the correct lane, even though it needs to turn right. For example, like earlier on, it needed to be in that right lane. Both lanes were left turning lanes. It needed to be in the right lane because it was going to be immediate right merge after that. But instead, it got in the left lane, which those types of decisions, I don't know why it does that. Like, why does it do that? Why does it? Because it was already in the correct lane, and it intentionally, like purposely, change lanes into the left lane, and then try to change back into the original lane, which made me take over. So we've had one intervention, and here we go, left turn. Just fine, handled it just fine. No problem whatsoever. I'm gonna bump up my speed, and I'm gonna try to get in this left lane. And you can see the lane changes are really fast, and I feel like that's been impressive part of not just FSD Beta, but just Autopilot and Full Self Driving since I've had the car. It's just the lane changes, they're pretty confident and pretty fast, and I don't even think I have mine set to Mad Max. The cameras know, like if there's not a car in a blind spot and I put on my turn signal, it does it pretty instantaneously. This is it's like a highway, but there are traffic lights throughout it, and it's a 4-lane highway, I guess, 2 lanes in each direction. I'm gonna set my speed to about 69, Nice. Okay. And I'm kind of speeding intentionally because with this road in the mornings, people tend to drive a lot faster than the speed limit. We got a car that's pulling right out in front of me right now. Wow. So earlier, I think before FSD Beta, the car would have probably slammed on its brakes there. That car was taking its time to cross over these 2 lanes of traffic into the middle lane, the middle turning lane, and it was, I mean, my car was coming up pretty fast on it, and FSD Beta hardly didn't even slow down at all, which that surprises me. I thought for sure it would brake harder than that, but it did see it. It did start slowing down. So I think it was ready to, but with the AI and the model of it predicting that the car, it predicted that it was going to continue into that turning lane based on all of the probably hundreds of thousands of those same situations that Tesla has gathered over the past 2 years or longer. The cameras recording that cars will cross over, and eventually 99% of the time they're going into that middle lane. So that's just the beauty of software and the full self-driving beta software. And Tesla just has so much data and that they sort of have a leg up on everybody right now, in my opinion. But that's just the beauty of machine learning, and I'm excited to see how FSD Beta gets better and exponentially improves once it goes to the wide release in public, because they're just going to get tons and tons more data than they already have, and hopefully they have the Dojo computer or something close to it to process all that. That's just really exciting to see the pathway to what FSD Beta is eventually going to become. So technically this is city driving, and my video from 2.5 years ago on this stretch of road, I didn't have Autopilot enabled or full self-driving enabled because it would limit my speed to 5 miles an hour over the speed limit, which would be 60 miles an hour, and most people go faster than that. As you can see, I'm going faster than that. I'm in the left lane. So with FSD Beta, you can bump up that speed. Like I said, you can bump it up to 85 miles an hour if you want to. So that's a difference between now and then, is now I can actually let full self-driving drive this stretch of the road because it can go over that speed limit. And that's another debate that people have is, should we let full self-driving, should we let the cars exceed speed limits? That's a very interesting dilemma, because I guarantee that most people exceed the speed limit one way or another at some point or another, whether they intentionally do it or don't intentionally do it, or just to keep up with traffic sometimes, or maybe it's sometimes the car detects the wrong speed limit, and so if you're going to leave it up to the car, what if it has the wrong speed limit? That's not, So I don't know. Like, is it going to be a mix of sort of like what humans do? It's like, okay, they go based on the speed limit, but they also go based on traffic, so it's a little bit of both. It's going to be very interesting to see how that all folds out. But right now, if you have FSD Beta, you can exceed the speed limit because you're ultimately still responsible for the car. And I also like to put FSD Beta to the test when by exceeding the speed limit a little bit, but while also being very careful. The car has been driving itself ever since I had about 1 minute into the drive. After that, the only intervention or the disengagement that I had to do when I had to kind of switch back into that original lane when I took that left turn at the very beginning, every now and then, I'll just turn on my turn signal to initiate a lane change, but it's just me initiating it. I'm not actually doing it. I'm just telling the car to do it, and it does it. So if you've never experienced Tesla Autopilot or full self-driving or even FSD Beta on a long commute, it is an absolute game changer. When I got this car, that was one of the biggest things I was looking forward to, because I had such a long commute, and I was like, okay, number one thing, I don't want to buy gas anymore. Number two, I want to be able to have a car that can kind of drive itself, or have some type of advanced driver assistance system like Autopilot, which was the best and still the best in my opinion. And just having that at the very beginning, that's been a game changer. And just having FSD Beta now has just been even way better than it even was before, because it's able to handle this city driving for the most part. And it just makes the drive so much easier and less mentally exhausting and safer as well, because I only have two eyes, and this has cameras all around the car. It's seeing more things than I'm seeing usually. Tesla's big on AI. They're not just building cars, which is really exciting, and it's just such a game changer to have this car for if you drive a lot. Battery's at 69%, nice. Okay, my actual office, it's not going to get there. It's behind the gated community and stuff like that. So that's another issue entirely, how a fully autonomous car is going to handle like toll booths or gates, stuff like that. That's just, it's going to be a while for it to completely get my Commute 100%. Okay, so still in control of the car. See, look what I don't know what the heck it's doing. So it's completely stopping. It's putting... All right, that was a... So, yeah. Cruise control. All right, it's giving me all kinds of warnings. Auto steer aborted for system error. So yeah, it was going just fine. I'm supposed to be on this road for just a straight stretch for a few miles, and it completely braked for no reason, put on its turn signal for no reason, and then it just completely went haywire and told me to take over and alert and disengage itself. So, well, we're gonna put this back on. I started getting those autopilot system errors around the time that I enrolled in FSD Beta about a year ago, and something is affecting the GPS data and the maps. Sometimes it'll show my car completely off map, and I thought it was related to FSD Beta, but they reverted me back or whatever they did, and I think it's still happening, because weird things like that out of the blue will happen. When I'm just going along, and all of a sudden it'll just be like, and it'll freak out and disengage me, and I think it's due to some type of GPS discrepancy. I'm sure other people that are enrolled at FSD Beta experience those types of weird issues, but that's why it is a FSD Beta, and it's why it's a closed group of early testers that are willing to accept responsibility and be ready to take over during times like that. So when you're driving with FSD Beta, you always got to be paying attention, for sure. And we are coming up towards the end of my commute, and so far there were only 2 disengagements. Speak of the devil. Again, did the same exact issue, just out of the blue, immediately screams for me to take over and disengages itself. So 3 disengagements, 2 of which are a result of some type of autopilot system error. Could be due to just something wrong with my car and my car's computer, or it could be tied to FSD Beta, but it had those 2 wonky things that it did. And now it's going to try to take, I think, an exit here. And, okay, I'm going to take over because it was not slowing down. And that was probably partly my fault. I had the speed limit set to pretty high over it, but I also like to test that out. So I think it should have slowed down way ahead of time, and it wasn't slowing down enough, so I took over. But yeah, that is FSD Beta on my commute. Still some things to work out, obviously, but it is nice to kind of have see the progress as it happens, and watch my car be able to handle a little bit more over time than it had in the past. So thank you for watching. Thanks for joining me on my commute here, and I will talk to you in the next one.